Okay. It's a broad intro. It's like, what's your theory on life? Hi, I'm Rich, and I own North Rose Coffee, and today we're going to talk a little bit about the coffee tree origins and its development. There's no actual documentation, right? So there's legend of Kaldi, who was a goat herder who couldn't find his goats in the mountains of Ethiopia and went searching for them and discovered that they were dancing around, agitated. And what he realized was they were eating the fruit of a tree he was not familiar with. And early on, the seeds of the coffee tree were actually almost made into like a preserved paste as like an energy bar. So it wasn't roasted, it was mixed with fat and kept as a food. As the Muslim population who were in control of that region of the globe, as they became aware of many other properties of coffee, they became more interested in the cultivation and the harvesting and jealously guarding the fruit of the tree. It's believed it was discovered in the 9th century, and they held it and guarded it for hundreds of years. Europeans didn't become aware of it until they began trading with the trading caravans that traded spices from the Far East into Europe, and the intermediaries were the people who actually controlled the coffee. So you didn't see coffee in Europe until the 1400s. It was the Turks who realized that roasting it enhanced its flavor and preserved it. Once you turn it from a product that can sprout or ferment and you turn it into a finished good, you can keep it much longer. When Europeans became really aware of it, there's the story of a man named Kolschitsky, don't bleep that, when the Turks were defeated at the gates of Vienna and the retreating army left behind their stock of coffee. And Kolschitsky recognized it because he was a trader and recognized it for what it was and established coffee houses in Vienna. They soon caught on very quickly, and it was recognized that this is a valuable product. First of all, value is generated by not just what it delivers, but scarcity. And it was a scarce commodity. But it was also associated with intellectuals, thought, heightened awareness, and so it appealed to a broad section of the population. It was also viewed as the drink of revolution and agitation, and so every once in a while you would get a monarch or a minor figure otherwise decide that they were going to ban coffee. I believe it makes sense for it to be the heightened awareness. If you can extend your productivity, just like today, if you can extend your productivity, if you're studying for an exam and you need to stay up another couple hours, you throw a couple cups of coffee into you. So it wasn't nutritional. At that time, it was seen as a beverage for the Muslim population, that it was held and controlled by them, and that it was culturally significant to them. Those first trees were typicas. So Ethiopia, even today, is the genetic reservoir of heirloom coffee. So those varieties still exist in Ethiopia. And so geisha is a variety that was first discovered in a province of Ethiopia. And geisha spread all across the globe because of its characteristics. The bourbons, which developed really from once the French acquired the beans, and the French acquired the beans as a gift from the Dutch to Louis 14th, and it was cultivated in the botanical gardens in Paris, taken from trees that the Dutch cultivated in their botanical gardens as well. The Typicas and the Bourbons, all sort of, Typica is the root of the tree, but all of the other varieties sort of sprung from that original. And then there were natural adaptations that happened in specific regions, just the way any animal population over an extended period of time changes. That's what happened to many of the coffee varieties. But also there was the hand of man, right? Like where they would take varieties with specific characteristics and blend them together and create a new variety. And that was done intentionally in a lab, and it was also done sort of on the farm. Typica is the main trunk of the tree. A Typica is a taller coffee tree, so it doesn't grow like most as a shrub, so it's harder to harvest. So that would be the main trunk. You've got geishas, and then the different varieties that sort of naturally evolved from that. From bourbon, there's all sorts of varieties that use it as a baseline, and whether they're natural adaptations or intentional. You've also got Robusta, which is the Typicas and the Bourbons and the Geishas are all Arabica. The Robusta is a different variety altogether. Lower quality, grows at lower elevations. It has a particular taste profile. If you know Robusta, you know the smell. It has a really rubbery sort of smell to it. Higher caffeine content. Traditionally, it's been used as first of all, it's a cheap filler for cheap coffee brands, but also as a small component of espresso blends typical to Italy. Makes good crema and punches up the body. And then the third variety would be Liberica, which is first discovered on the west coast of Africa, replanted primarily in the Philippines to combat leaf rust, which was devastating a lot of the Pacific islands. And to that extent, Robusta was also used to replace Arabica, which was wiped out in like the island of Java, which is synonymous with coffee, but Arabica was wiped out from Java and replaced with Robusta. So as you go further out the tree, you're getting further removed from the heirloom, from the original coffees and the wild coffees. So I think that we should pay particular attention to the heirloom varieties and the wild varieties yet undiscovered, because certainly it's not like every tree has been analyzed in Ethiopia. So there are so many varieties still undiscovered. But as you go further out the branches, like for instance, you'll see some of them SL28 and SL36. These were produced by a company in the early 1900s called Scott Labs, Scott Labs. They were created after identifying certain varieties that they thought the characteristics were good, but also resistant to leaf rust, which has been devastating to the industry over time. As you get further out the tree, you're getting varieties created for reasons other than taste and quality. We're trying to shoehorn production into this landscape, and it doesn't really work. So can we find a variety that will work under dry conditions, extremely hot, and low elevation? You know, so those factors come into play when we start dealing with climate change in a real way. Of course, if they thrive in a certain climate, those are best adapted for that climate. So it's almost like they self-reveal that over time, this particular tree and its seedlings produce the best in this soil condition. So that's almost like farming 101, right? Like where farmers know their land better than anyone else. For example, there's an island in the Pacific, Flores. It developed its own varietal from original bourbon plants that were planted there. And there's many, many different examples of that. Kent variety discovered in Mysore, India, and then brought to Kenya. And it's got that really tart, dry acidity. It's a taller tree, so it provides some shade as well, which is valuable in some farms. Probably 20 years ago, farmers and communities became more aware of the importance of polyculture and diversity on the farm, not just practically, but also because people in North America and Europe valued that, because those are questions they were asking is, oh, how do I know that the birds are treated well on this farm and that they have nesting opportunities? Or how do I know that your wet mill isn't fouling the river with sediment? By adding polyculture, they add wood sources, and it's very common to see avocado trees on coffee farms that provide a lot of shade, bigger root systems so it anchors the soil to the side of the mountain, and it's less susceptible to erosion and heavy rains. There's always a risk when Western organizations and Westerners become involved in developing countries, that there's sort of a paternalistic approach to, listen guys, you just listen to me and I'll tell you how to run your farm. Those guys, like I said before, they know their farms better than anyone else, but the incentive of, hey, you can get a few extra, dollars by adding these things that actually benefit you, it's sort of win-win. Okay, that's it. So thank you very much for watching, and just stay tuned for more content from Behind the Beats.